Call this meeting to order. Meeting of Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Board of Directors for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Roll call.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Present.
Chairman Gleason.
Here.
Director Kaczynski.
Here.
Director Page.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Thanks. Next thing will be a salute to the flag, followed by a moment of prayer, silence, and meditation, whatever you prefer. Scott, would you lead us on the salute, please? Sure.
This flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. We're going to open the meeting first by explaining that we're still following governor's directives and we're restricting physical attendance to the meeting, but we're encouraging public participation, and we've excited all of our technical capabilities to enable that, and looking forward to hearing from the public as much as possible. So let's go to public comment. Oh, yeah, public comment before we go to closed session. Anybody wishing to make public comment either here or on the radio waves prior to us going to closed session? Okay, I get a no signal, so there's no comment, no outside comment, no inside comment. Need a motion to go to closed session. I think, don't we need a motion?
Yeah, go to closed session.
Okay, we're going to closed session. Okay, let's go to closed session. Afternoons, this morning's meeting for the Board of Directors for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Present.
Chairman Gleason.
Yep.
Director Kaczynski.
Here.
Director Page.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Outstanding. Report on items discussed in closed session. Mr. Hall.
Today's closed session was held. There were 2 items discussed and nothing to report out.
Thank you, sir. Open up for public comments. This time is reserved for the public to address the board about matters not on the agenda. No action will be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. So let's open it up. I see I got some blue lights out there, and that is good. People want to talk. So caller, please identify yourself and go ahead. Caller, you're up.
Hi, this is Renee Westolas.
Hi, Renee.
I just have some administrative questions. One is, went to the IWVGA.org website, and the video recordings of the meetings from July 16th, August 20th, and the public hearing on August 21st are not posted. They're on the city's website, but you have to dig for them on the city's website. But all the other meetings the GA has been having the videos have been posted. Is there a reason why those haven't been posted yet? I don't know who's responsible for posting the video recordings of the meetings to the GA website.
We've had a recent marriage on the team here, and the young lady who's now married has been doing more important things. So forgive us for that, and we will post those ASAP. Thank you very much, Renee.
Okay, and then I have one other question. It has to do with, where do you find that report? It's referred to in the WRM's report. Is it posted on the website regarding TDS sampling and testing and isotope sampling and testing? There were comments made by the TAC, and I read those comments over, but without reading the document, the comments don't all make sense to me.
Thank you, Renee. We're going to have someone look at that, and we'll have someone get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Steve Johnson, if you could take that for action afterwards, please. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll work with April. We'll get it posted. Make sure it's posted.
Thanks, sir. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Mike Neal.
Hi, Mike.
First, I have a question. Have you received a box of referendum petitions yet?
I have not. Have you, General Manager?
We have.
We have?
We've received a box. I haven't opened it.
We've received a box. We've not opened it.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll proceed with my comment here. On August 21, after hearing 20 comments opposing the replenishment fee and receiving over 5,000 protest votes against it, only one board member, at the direction of his parent board, voted no and urged modification of this ordinance. Knowing that this ordinance will saddle us with yet more onerous taxes and bring many jobs in the valley into jeopardy, Member Gleason had the temerity to make the following comments. I paraphrase. Yes, I want this done before I leave the valley. And the people who campaigned for the protest vote were motivated by something other than the best interest of this community. Stating that pushing this forward for his self-interest was okay and that persons who opposed that were self-motivated indicates the attitude we the people have felt from this board on many occasions. I respond to these high-minded statements with principles of the California Constitution. Article 1, Section 1. All people are free by nature, free and independent, and have inalienable rights. Among these are protecting property, meaning their means like finances. Article 2, Section 1. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their benefit, and they have the right to alter or reform it when the public good may require. Article 1, Section 3. The people have the right to instruct their representatives and petition government for redress of grievances. Article 2, Section 11. Initiative and referendum powers may be exercised by the electors of each city or county under procedures that the legislature shall provide. We now answer the attempt by this board to saddle us with unjust taxes and Mr. Gleason to cow us to it with demeaning statements. Through a grassroots efforts of businesses and individuals, including individual board members of one of your represented agencies, a referendum petition has been circulated valley-wide, resulting in over 2,900 signatures by citizens alarmed at this affront. You have that petition in your possession today. The petition states, we, the undersigned property owners of the Indian Wells Valley, seek the repeal of Ordinance 0320, establishment of a basin replenishment fee adopted on August 21, 2020. Only when government, this board, fears the people is there liberty in our community. We exercise the power of our Constitution and demand repeal of this unjust and harmful law. We demand improvement of this ordinance so as to make it just and the least harmful in application, and we refuse to bow to capricious exercise of power in an unelected board. Repeal this ordinance forthwith. Abstain from being led astray by faulty references to case law and claims of referendums not applying to this ordinance, and listen to the people. There are numerous avenues available to continue this fight, and fight we will if need be. Liberty is too precious to allow further erosion by unelected boards in our valley. We would prefer that the solution to our current disagreement begin today. That is now up to you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate
Freedom
it.
to the people of the Indian Wells Valley.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Just for the record, I rescinded those statements. I did make those statements, and I rescinded those statements about, yeah, I did. And also for the record that a vast majority of the parcel owners in the Indian Wells Valley elected or did not file a protest. So listening to people is exactly what we're doing. Next up. We're done. Okay. Public comments are concluded. Mr. Lawyer, Phil, Mr. Hall, could you talk about that referendum for a second, please? And tell me what does it have meaning? Does it have validity? What is it? How did it get here?
I'm not sure how it got here. I've seen some comments and some stuff out there, Facebook and other places where Water District Board members were a part of what sounds like Mike was taking responsibility for. So I can't really say much to that. I can say that this is a legal non-event, as Mr. Neal knows, and as he basically asserted. I will take one caveat to what he said. There is no limited case law. There is no unreading of the case law. California Supreme Court on August 3rd ruled referendums of a fee like you passed are not legally legitimate.
Got it. Appreciate it. I appreciate the legal response, but there's also a response. I would like to know what's in those boxes, and I don't know. I want to respect the efforts of the people who voiced their opinion. I just don't want to discard it because it's not legal. Certainly is not going to impact what we're doing here because it's not legal, but that doesn't mean we can't respect and honor their efforts, and I would like to do that, and I'm not sure how we would go about doing that other than opening the box and bring it in, and we'll open it at some time, and not right now. We have too many things to go on, but I want to go through that and spend some time with that. Okay, I think that satisfies that answer. Okay. Public comments is over. Bring it to a close. Consent agenda is A, approve the minutes of board meeting 2021, 2020, and B, approve expenditures. I know there's some adjustments that the general manager would like to make on the consent agenda.
Right, just a few things to bring to the board's attention with regards to these expenditures. Item B3, $145 for the water district job, that is for the first ad that we put out, and that ad closed April 30th, so that we got that invoice, I think literally the day of the GA meeting, so it didn't make the agenda. B4, the Aqua invoice, that is for the second posting, which as you know, we extended the recruitment period to October 10th, so that is for the second invoice. Item number 5, the $4,000 for Brown Armstrong. I just want to make clear that that is within the original $9,000 agreement. Is not anything extra. And then finally, item 6, the amount on here is incorrect. It's a result of going back and forth with WaterWise. I think there were several emails exchanged. The invoices were incorrect. They resubmitted them. What we have here is an invoice for July of $12,840, and an invoice for August, which you do not see on here, for $6,405. And again, those are part of the SDAC portion of the Prop 1 agreement. So I just want to make sure that you know, if you approve this, there's an additional invoice for August for $6,405, and the July invoice is actually $12,840, not $810.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Before we go for other comments, let's listen to the public and see if they have anything to say about a consent agenda. Any people in the public wishing to comment on today's consent agenda? Okay, Gary says no, gives me the signal, a wave off, so we're waving off, and we will bring it back to the board. Public hearing is closed. Bring it back to the board for comment and a vote.
Yeah, I don't want to pull anything, but I'd just like to talk about the approved expenditures. I take it that, and in finances, we'll talk about those overall. But so all these approved, everything we're approving here is what I'm considering GSP development. That's all going on that the budget for the development of the GSP. Is that correct? In other words, there's nothing here that falls outside the guidelines that we developed to say this is the GSP development budget. Well, and if there is, where does it go? I may have caught you off guard on that one, but it needs to be asked, because as long as it's in the budget that we agreed to, that we are going to be paying along with that new pumping fee, I have no problem with it. I just want to know that that's been looked at.
Well, the audits have been paid out of the pumping.
Yeah, and I can understand that's an audit for
Yeah.
for the years that's occurring.
The WaterWise, those are coming from the Prop 1 grant.
Right.
SDAC.
Okay.
The ads for the recruitment for the general manager, that would come out of the pumping fee as well, I would imagine, right?
Okay. I just want to be sure that we stay on track with that one, because we made so much effort to make sure that we don't attach anything that doesn't qualify as development. So I'm not going to question any of these beyond that. I just want to make that statement. Thank you.
Valid point.
Chair, if I may, two things. First, we can't approve the Brown Armstrong 4,000 until we get to item 7. Right, Don?
Well, no, that's, as I said, that's within the scope of their agreement right now.
Oh, that's okay. So that's the previous.
That's
okay.
that's not addition to the 9,000. That's
right.
within the 9,000.
Sorry, I missed that. Yeah. As for your other questions, I'm sure that Stetson and Capcor's expenses, well, maybe not on this month because it would have been from last month. It depends when they're submitting their invoices, but I can tell you, for example, for absolute certainty, 100% knowledge, Stetson and Capcor have worked and that on things that will be charged to the replenishment fee.
And the district is paying those invoices right now?
Not for the discussions we just had with...
For this invoice here, for Capital Corps? This is still for pursuing funding for projects?
Maybe this one is, but what I'm saying is we just had a phone call this week on somebody presenting a purchase price, a purchase of water, and that will be tracked separately. So Stetson is not just working on GSP. That's sort of a misnomer. They are also working on getting you replenishment fee water, and that replenishment fee water will be charged by Stetson's work for that, and that will be tracked. That is what we have to do by law, is track them separately and charge them separately, and that's done back in booking.
You're saying Stetson, but do you mean Capital Corps?
I believe Capital Corps looked at it a little too.
Okay.
But Stetson and Capital Corps, I believe Capital Corps spent a couple hours looking at it also.
But that would not be on this invoice. This invoice is for the month of August.
Right, but I think the general point, which is well taken, is that, for example, Stetson did do some work this week in a discussion about buying imported water.
Correct.
And those charges need to be earmarked toward the replenishment fee costs and not the GSP development. I think clearly making sure we discriminate between the two is what Ron is talking about, and I agree 100%.
Yes, and on that, we don't have it this month, but it's already been agreed at a staff level that the water district, or I should say the Brackish group through the water district, will be contributing some money next month in an agreement for Steve to look at and analyze a business proposal idea that the Brackish group has, because that is not a GSP or a replenishment fee area.
Got it. Ron, you done?
No, I'm just going to go ahead and move for approval of the consent agenda.
This is John Vallejo. Are we approving the consent agenda as is? Are there modifications? Do we have to pull out certain items if they've been modified? I'm a little unclear at this point.
No, sorry, John. When I saw the 4,000 for Brown Armstrong, I was tying it to item 7, and I was incorrect.
So it's as the consent agenda stands, John, with the changes articulated by the
which I believe was the extra 6405 for Waterwise.
So we have a motion. Looking for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Heyman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Yes.
Director Kaczynski,
Yes.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Number 7, board consideration and approval of Brown Armstrong request for additional funding. Over to you, Mr. General Manager.
Okay, the authority entered into agreement with the firm of Brown Armstrong on November 21st, 2019 to perform financial auditing services for the calendar and fiscal years 2018 and 2019. Terms of that agreement included issuing their reports by April 30th, 2020, and fees not exceeding $9,000, $4,500 for each of those 2 years. The fees were based on the previous audit experience on behalf of the authority and the understanding on the part of the auditor that there were relatively few transactions in either year requiring limited testing. In actuality, there's been more activity in both years, and it's been challenging to obtain the information as the 2018 audit files were maintained by Kern County, and then we transitioned that to in-house with the Water District. So as a result, both years have been difficult to reconcile supporting documentation. I can attest firsthand because our CFO Ty has been involved in this audit and going back and forth with Brown Armstrong and the county. It has been challenging at times getting the documents to Brown Armstrong that they need to get these audits done. So on July 30th, email from Thomas Young. Mr. Young requested an increase of $5,000 to cover the cost of completing both of these audits. Mr. Young did submit a formal request in a letter August 14th, that's in your board packet, in which he said that, in which he formally requested the $5,000. I followed up with Mr. Young to ask him what that $5,000 is comprised of, and he responded approximately 55 hours at an average rate of $90 an hour. And he did say if there were additional hours beyond those 55 hours, that the Groundwater Authority would not be charged. So based on my limited personal knowledge of interactions between our CFO, the county, and Brown Armstrong, I know there are some concerns about this additional $5,000, but my recommendation, based on what I know, is that the board approve the $5,000 so we can get those audits completed.
Thank you, sir. Let's open up the public for comment and consideration, comment and thoughts, and whatever you want to do. This is opening for the public for discussion on item number 7. Okay, so I'm seeing nothing from public comment. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for consideration and thoughts.
Just a question, does that, the amount that we figured for auditing was $6,276 according to the, I won't call it a budget, it was the sheet used to determine the pumping fee. Does that mean that's going to increase by, what was it, $5,000? It's going to go to 11, or is that included? Or
I'm sorry, what are you looking at?
there's a line item for audit that's in the plan, creating the plan of $6,276. So that needs to go up to.
Well, that was likely based on the initial
Right.
audit, I would imagine, yes.
Okay.
Not the state, not the, well, the audit for each year is $4,500.
Okay.
So that's probably a reasonable number.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? My thought on that is I'm going to go ahead and support it, but I really want to drill down and make sure there's some nebulous responses that they've given us, like when they say there's a lot of work that occurred between 18 and 19. You know, I don't pay people for a lot of work. I want to know exactly what tasks were completed and how they were completed and what times they use. I think we use a little more articulation in exactly what we're paying for, and if you could pass those words along.
Right.
I don't doubt that they're doing the work.
My
I just need to
understanding
have
is-
a better justification.
My understanding is not specifically the amount of transactions, because as you know, we don't have a lot of transactions, but it's the paper trail and trying to get the documentation going back and forth between the county and the water district, because the financials were handled by different people. That's what's caused a lot of this extra work.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? If not, I'm looking for a vote.
I will move approval of the staff recommendation on this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Any second?
I'll second that.
You got a second? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director Kaczynski,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Number 8, board consideration and approval of request for contract extension with Desert Resource Institute, DRI. Don.
Okay, the Groundwater Authority entered into an agreement with the Board of Regents of the Nevada System of Higher Education on behalf of Desert Research Institute on May 23, 2018, for the purposes of using the groundwater model in support of the authority's work in development of the groundwater sustainability plan. The agreement was in effect from June 1st, 2018 through June 30th of 2020. As a result of a need on the part of the group that is doing the brackish groundwater feasibility study to run the model scenarios related to the brackish water resource study, it's being funded through Prop 1 funds through DWR. An amendment to the agreement was adopted November 15th of 2018. So as the original agreement expired June 30th, 2020, there's need for further work from the brackish study to continue to have the ability to request modeling services from DRI. It's requested that the agreement be extended by way of an amendment to the June 30th extended to June 30th, 2021. Consistent with the reimbursement agreement section of the amendment, the brackish group would reimburse the authority for the costs incurred by DRI for developing and running any model scenarios that are requested by the group. So there is no cost to the Groundwater Authority. This is simply an extension allowing the Brackish Group to work through Stetson and DRI to have modeling scenarios run in support of the Brackish feasibility study. So the recommendation is for this board to approve an amendment. I will note, Council drafted an amendment that's in your package. It's listed as a draft. My understanding is Jean Moran from Stetson has also drafted one. She did the previous one. But what you'd be approving is an amendment. There may be one or both, one of those, but it would go through approval of legal counsel first. So basically, approving the concept of the agreement, but not necessarily what's in the packet.
Outstanding. Mr. Johnson, do you have any thoughts on this discussion? Extension of the DRI model?
No, I do not, Mick. We've been in the loop with both Don and with legal counsel Phil Hall. We're good.
Okay. Then let's open it for the public for comment. I see some people have called in. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Camille Anderson from
Hi, Camille.
Searles Valley Minerals. So as a member of the Brackish Water Group, Searles Valley Minerals sees no need to extend the contract with DRI and spend any more money on brackish water modeling scenarios. We have 3 reasons for this position. The brackish water is not in a confined aquifer, so it is considered part of the whole groundwater and storage. The replenishment fee applies to all water pumped in the basin, and the U.S. Navy is opposed to pumping brackish water on the Navy base. So at this time, there's no reason to continue brackish water modeling scenarios or brackish water modeling. Searles Valley Minerals urges the GA to vote against this request.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you.
Okay, nobody else, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for comment.
I have not been made aware that the Navy is strictly against pumping brackish water. Maybe they've said something since, but when they were participating in the project, their objection was only that it not be tested on the base because they were concerned about subsidence. There was no indication that I'm aware of that they were strictly opposed to pumping brackish water.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Don.
Excuse me just for a second before we open it for the board. Steve, do you have any other staff comments about this, considering Searles' comments? And then I'll give it to you.
No, I don't. I just want to acknowledge Camille's comments, because one of the issues on the request, which we talked about at the last board meeting, I think on the 21st, one of Camille's comments was in regards to a brackish water project, and that reflects my comments at the August 21st meeting is on the request for an exemption to the replenishment fee, is that we're not aware of a project with which to address an exemption to the replenishment fee. We do have a discussion scheduled for next week with Phil and Don and folks of the Brackish Water Group. But I do acknowledge Camille's concerns. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll close the staff and bring it to the board for comment and consideration.
I just want to say, I believe, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't any, at this particular, DWR is we have grants for all this, or the project does, is it not?
The Brackish groundwater feasibility study is being funded by Department of Water Resources. Yes, a grant from Department of Water Resources. And I would add, with regards to what Steve just said, part of his requirement, as I understand it, to make a presentation for him to make a recommendation on whether or not non-potable water is exempt from the replenishment fee, is that a model be run and demonstrated to him. So in order to do that, this contract needs to be extended. Otherwise, we're not able to run that model with DRI.
And I agree with Steve that it's hard to sit there and say we need an exemption or not until we know the results of the study. Thank you.
Right. We don't know what the project is.
This is John Vallejo.
Go ahead, John.
Is it okay? Hey, so forgive my ignorance. I don't recall the exact dynamics of this brackish group. Is there any reason why they can't contract directly with DRI?
I don't know the answer to that question. Does anyone have the answer to that question?
I don't know. When the original agreement was set up, the Groundwater Authority had the contract with DRI, when it became necessary for the brackish feasibility study to have access to the model, there was an amendment to that agreement that allowed the brackish water study to work through Stetson to run model scenarios. I don't know that, that's how it was set up. And so what we're asking is just to extend that agreement. Other than that model in support of Stetson developing a recommendation to the board with regard to non-potable waters having to pay the replenishment fee, I don't know that there will be other model requests coming, but at least one, and there may be one more coming just to support the brackish study itself. But again,
I guess another way of asking the question is: Are we required? Is there some need for us to be the middle agency here?
Mr. Chairman, may I respond? This is Steve.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. Just backing up a little bit. In order to develop the GSP, we did a significant amount of modeling using the Navy/DRI model. We had an arrangement with the Navy and DRI through the authority to access that model, and we worked through the authority in cooperation with the Navy to use the model to develop the GSP. All of the model runs we ran to develop the solutions and the projects around the GSP and the management plan for sustainability management plan were based upon that model. As part of that process, it was extremely important to this board and to us as the Water Resources Manager that ultimately that model be generally owned and managed by the authority going forward, because it is a key tool for future management of that basin. We are in the process right now of working on the management plan with the Navy and DRI, the management plan that physically transfers that model to the management of the Groundwater Authority under a management plan that continues a direct involvement of the Navy in that model. The Navy requires that they continue to have some level of involvement in any changes to that model, because the Navy has used that model to base a lot of their decisions on the base too. So that model is going to be in the hands of the Groundwater Authority under a management plan consistent with the Navy. So for the brackish water group to access that model, they would have to separately approach the Navy, which doesn't make a lot of sense, or go through the authority. So that's what we're doing.
Any other comments? Looking for a vote and a motion.
I vote to approve the request for contract extension with Desert Resource Institute. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Making a motion. Yeah. I'm voting to make a motion. I'm making a motion. Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Page. We have a motion and a second. Oral vote, please.
Vice Chair Heyman?
Aye.
Chairman Gleason?
I would like to thank Camille for her thoughtful considerations, but I see the fact that we have controls in place that are satisfactory to me at the present time. And aye.
Director Kaczynski?
Aye.
Director Page?
Aye.
Director Vallejo?
Aye.
Number 9, meter ordinance compliance, ordinance 01-20, report and possible action. Don.
Okay, I apologize. I think some people were expecting a staff report on this. There is not one. There is a table. I think it's 8 pages in your packet. Please refer to that. Ordinance 01-20 requiring the installation of, use of, and reporting on metering equipment for groundwater extraction facilities in the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Basin was adopted March 19th of 2020 and took effect April 18th, 2020. The ordinance required non-de minimis groundwater extractors to install primary and secondary metering equipment by June 1, 2020, and to submit accuracy testing results to the Water Resource Manager by August 1, 2020. To summarize the table, 55 known non-de minimis pumpers are on that table. All 55 have registered their wells. 35 are known to have flow meters installed. 6, for some reason, are listed as unknown. I'm not sure why. And the remaining 14 do not have their wells equipped with meters. Only 2 of those 55 have complied with submitting their meter accuracy tests. Those would be Meadowbrook Dairy and Indian Wells Valley Water District. I suspect one of the reasons that we have not received the meter testing results, I don't believe we've communicated after that ordinance was passed to these registered non-de minimis well owners. So my recommendation would be that we reach out to them with a letter informing them of the ordinance and the requirements, and grant leniency or whatever in terms of complying with these deadlines. I think this is maybe a lack of outreach to these people is maybe one of the reasons why we didn't get the results that we expected.
So what are we doing to get the results that we expect?
As I said, I think what we would do, the ones that have not submitted, that have not provided their meters or installed meters and or not provided the accuracy tests, I think we contact them, send them a letter with the ordinance, informing them, and perhaps, I think we need to extend a deadline for them to comply. What that deadline would be, we can talk about during the staff call on Monday.
Okay, so we have a plan in place to improve our outreach on meter ordinances.
I think we need to do that, yes. Like, as I said, other than passing the ordinance, there was no, that I could find, where there was no effort to contact any of these non-de minimis pumpers and let them know what the expectations were.
Thanks. I just want to make sure that we are moving out on this. It's a critical component of our plan. Let's open the public for comment. I don't see anybody, so I'm going to close public hearing and bring it back to the board for a conversation. Oh, wait a minute, I got somebody, so let's reopen the public hearing and allow this caller to voice his or her opinion. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was trying to comment on item number 9.
Go for it, Josh.
Okay, so this is Joshua Nugent. I am providing comments on number 9 on behalf of Mojave Pistachios. Just want to clarify on the August 2020 chart that shows Mojave Pistachios on the top of page 3 states that flow meters were installed on 7 of Mojave Pistachios wells, whereas the other 6 registration forms did not provide any data on whether a flow meter was installed or not. It should be clarified that the 7 wells with flow meters are the only wells currently operated by Mojave Pistachios. The remaining 6 wells are not utilized. So the only groundwater pumped by Mojave Pistachios are wells equipped with meters. Just to provide a little clarification, on the June report, there were 9 items, but 2 of them were for the same wells. So on our office well, we replaced a meter, so there were 2 line items for that. And then on our Cooley field, we had 1 well, and after the earthquake, it had sand in it, so we moved the equipment to another well. So just out of transparency, we were reporting both for an additional period of time. But on this last reporting form, we've clarified that there's only 7 wells that we're pumping from, and only those 7 have flow meters. And the other 5 wells are on the Neal Ranch property, which we've never pumped from and aren't equipped. So, and then as for the accuracy test, we're working with an irrigation consultant to submit our accuracy test as soon as possible. And as you've talked about, in the future, we just suggest providing written notice to pumpers of upcoming deadlines, along with the required forms and an explanation of the process for submittal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Did everyone understand what he said, his last couple comments? Because I didn't. Josh, you still there? Did someone get that? It'll be on the tape. We'll get it. We'll get it. Handle it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Josh. Next caller. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Renee Westolusk. When you send the letter to reach out to all the non-de minimis well users, are you going to provide a list of, I guess, what you would call them, companies that do meter testing for accuracy, are you going to provide that? Because maybe some of these well owners maybe don't right off the hand have access to that data where they can get their meter tested for accuracy.
Thank you, Renee. We'll take that into consideration and make adjustments if required.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Okay, seeing no more, we'll close the public hearing again and bring it back to the board for consideration. Item number 9.
So Don, what is staff requesting of the board here? Just an approval to create a method of encouraging compliance? Is that what you're asking?
I don't know if just a receive and file report, or I don't know if there's a formal.
You've got a couple things going on here. I think you do need to get some people in compliance. In particular, if I was, for example, somebody paying a fee out here, I would be curious to make sure everybody was paying proper fee through a proper meter. So we need to get compliance. That's why we put it in. Some of the compliance in the group that are going into the transient pool, we have a hook there. Others, we don't have that hook. But I mean, I think the board needs to seek compliance here.
And I agree with that. I'm just asking, should we just move ahead with some kind of a letter? And I agree with Renee that if we create a letter, it might be nice to give them a list of possible ways to, where to get meters and where to get meter testing within the letter, and give them, encourage them, make it easier for them. But I think something needs to be done, and we need to reach out to these.
Yeah, the ordinance itself that we passed has a provision in it for actually not having meters, an alternative method. And in fact, we approved the alternative method at the last board meeting for Quist and Meadowbrook. Quist and Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook's was, they didn't meet drinking water standard for the meters. Right. It's ag operation. And Quist was using alternative method rather than meters.
So is your question about a motion? Is that what you're asking?
I have a question. Are we looking at putting a time frame for compliance in this letter?
Yes, as I mentioned, I think what we'll do is we'll discuss this. If the board's agreeable, we'll discuss this Monday during our staff call and come up with a new deadline for them to comply to these requirements.
And I like the idea of having if we can have a list. I thought we had in a prior meeting a couple names of companies that provided me the accuracy testing, if I remember right. I think Renee had a really good point on putting that. Good idea.
I agree with Phil on the alternates. It'd be nice where we have flow meter installed, instead of saying no, that maybe we have some way to note that they're using an alternate method. Because I look down here and say, look at all these no's, and yet Phil just pointed out that Quist is using an alternate method, which is acceptable. So rather than just put no flow meter installed, maybe we put alternate or something in there, so we know.
All good ideas, and I need a vote. A motion.
Motion to approve.
You have a motion. Looking for a second.
I guess I'm going to ask, what are we approving? Are we approving to send a letter out? Is that it? Is that what the motion is?
Well, the staff recommendation, yes, is to approve sending a letter out, and with the understanding that the staff will discuss the specifics in terms of extending the deadlines on Monday and include that.
And that's your motion, so I'll second it.
You have a motion and a second. Please, oral call.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Aye.
Chairman Gleason.
Aye.
Director Kaczynski.
Aye.
Director Page.
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Continuance number 10, continuance of public hearing for Frank Molino for failure to register, report, and pay groundwater extraction fees. Don.
Okay, the staff report that you have is essentially the background information on it is the same as last month, so I won't go through that unless you want me to. But I will add, in addition to was on the staff report last month, Mr. Molino was sent a letter by certified mail on August 4th, notifying him of the public hearing set for the Groundwater Authority on Thursday, August 20th, 2020, during which he would be provided with the opportunity to address the board regarding the groundwater extractions on his property and possible actions the Groundwater Authority may take regarding apparent failure to abide by the provisions of Ordinance 0218. Mr. Molino was not able to attend the August 20th meeting due to a medical issue. He was sent a second letter by certified mail on August 28th, advising him the public hearing that you were previously notified of in the attached letter and staff report has been continued to the September 17th, 2020 Authority Board meeting. As previously advised, it is requested that you contact the general manager no later than 24 hours prior to the meeting to obtain a dial-in phone number so you may attend the meeting, which is being held in accordance with the COVID-19 precautions. If the provided date is problematic, you may also speak with the general manager about a continuance, but in such an event, you should discuss and ensure the continuance by no later than September 10th, 2020. There has been no response to that letter as of today. The actions are similar to last month's staff report. Water Code Section 10730.6 expressly provides the board with the following authorities to address violations of Ordinance 0218. First one is an assessment of a 10% penalty and interest at 1% per month of delinquency. Number two, order the cessation of all groundwater extractions until the violations have been cured and the delinquent charges, penalties, and interest have been paid, and or bring suit seeking judicial orders and attachments. So we're looking for the recommended board actions at that time was to open the hearing and take testimony. Obviously, we can't do that. So we're at an impasse because we have not had any communication, any response to the communications that we've sent.
Thank you, sir. So we've had no response from Mr. Molino ever. He came in here one time a couple of years ago and spoke. But since that time, when we've been sending responses about this issue, that we've gotten nothing back.
Exactly. No well registration. He's been sent water monthly report forms. No response. So yeah, no response to anything that the Groundwater Authority has sent.
And the three options ahead of us are, repeat those three options, please, one more time.
First one is to assess a 10% penalty and interest at 1% per month of delinquency. Second, order the cessation of all groundwater extractions until the violations have been cured and all delinquent charges, penalties, and interest have been paid, and or bring suit seeking judicial orders and attachments.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's open the public hearing it's time for somebody to call if he's available. Mr. Molino, it'd be nice if you called. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone calling. I'm getting a signal that there's no phone in, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for conversation. Mr. Kaczynski.
First thing I want to say is it's important we do something here. We have pumpers who are complying and paying the fee, and I think it would be unjust to expect them to do that if we don't encourage everybody to do the same.
So, did Mr. Molino sign for the second certified letter that sent out on August?
His letter was sent on August 28th, right? And
this is John Vallejo. Sorry for interrupting. Director Heyman, something's wrong, I believe, with your particular microphone because you're consistently garbled on my end.
Here. I'm going to move over a chair here because, yeah, it's been consistent. Can you hear me clear on this one, John?
I can, yes.
Okay. So my question is, did Mr. Molino sign for that certified letter, the latest letter that was sent out?
I don't believe he did. We didn't receive it, right?
Because my question.
He signed for the first.
I received the first certified letter back I received a signed copy back. The second letter, I have not received a signed copy, nor have I received the actual letter back, because they will make so many attempts before bringing it back to us as undeliverable.
Okay, because my concern was if he was out on a medical or couldn't attend the previous one due to a medical thing. We haven't heard back from him since that time. I guess I'm questioning whether or not he's around to take take action. So just a question I have.
And I can't answer because we've had no communication with them.
How would we determine the delinquent amount? If we have no pumping data, we don't know what's going on, how would we come up with a figure to say, okay, this is what you owe us now? Yeah, can we do it by acreage? I don't know.
You mean in terms of a fee if we were to assess it?
Yeah, if we were to assess some kind of fee, obviously if he's reporting no pumping, can an estimate be made?
I would suggest we would do the same thing that we've done for Pearsonville. They don't have a meter. Basically, we know they're growing pistachios. We know how many acres, and I think you just make your best estimate in terms of how what you think that would require to sustain those trees. And then, again, I don't know if he has meters. I have to look at that sheet, but he's not registered. Yeah, that's right. So I think we just take our best guess. And I don't know, unless he presents some other evidence, I don't know.
Thanks, appreciate it. Do we know that his medical condition would be justification for him being 2 months without a response? I mean, I don't know what his medical. I'm not asking you to tell me what it is. I don't want to break HIPAA, but I do want to. I just want to. Is it? I think even if that question breaks HIPAA, I don't know if it does. Maybe don't answer.
Yeah, I wouldn't answer that. He's not here. He hasn't made any comment. He hasn't called. He hasn't reached out. Nobody's reached out for him. None of that's happened. I think at this stage you have a couple options. One is tell him he has 30 days to come to an agreement on a payment, or he has to cease all pumping, or option two is just tell him he has to cease all pumping now and use our legal options in that regard.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm of the mindset. Did you have something to say? I'm of the mindset that we be more directive. We've got to escalate this. We cannot sit back and let him abuse the system if that's what he's doing. It sure does look like it to me. So it's not fair, like you said, Ms. Kaczynski, and I'm willing to say be directive. Say you got 30 days, but there's no more future decision on whether or not we do things. You get 30 days to start to come in line or cease pumping. That's my thoughts.
I have one question for Phil real quick. If he had registered and done everything right, he would have been eligible for the transient pool, wouldn't he have? If he would have. Did he miss that opportunity, obviously?
Off the top of my head, I do not recall if he was pumping in the relevant period to be qualified.
But we don't even know for sure, but he might have been. Yeah.
Well, it's in the report. I just don't know the report off the top of my head. I believe he did not qualify for the transient pool.
Yeah, there's no real need.
But
I just asked that question.
I mean, you'd have to go look at it, and I could spend 5 minutes to pull up the document, but I don't know off the top of my head.
It doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so that's my thoughts. I'm looking for other thoughts or a motion and a second and a vote.
Well, it's John Vallejo, and I'm a little uncertain about what we're authorizing. Are we going to make some findings here as part of this hearing with regard to his actual pumping, the fine amount, the penalties, et cetera, and create an administrative record on that end, and then move for enforcement in the Superior Court? Or are we looking at potentially initiating brand new action in the Superior Court to enforce our ordinance?
That's a legal question, and I offer that to legal for consideration.
I guess to the first part of your question, yes, we're going to be making a finding that he has done nothing and he did not show up for our hearing. The second question is for the board. Does the board want to send him a letter saying we've had this hearing and determined you need to pay in arrears? and or stop pumping immediately. And if you do not, we will take further legal action. This is really a question for you, the board, and you have options.
Would that letter include our estimate of penalty fee, money owed? I assume it would.
If you want to estimate it and send it to him in the letter, or if you want him to contact you so you can estimate it with him, operational,
That's probably better.
I think Mr. Vallejo had some thoughts that weren't finished. John, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I guess I feel like if we're going to be holding these administrative hearings for non-compliant, I'd like to kind of know for future reference, and including this one, like what's our end goal for things? Is it to go through the typical code enforcement type process and move forward in that direction, or are we really just going to set something else up with regard to proceedings in the Superior Court? Because it seems to me that we have the authority to make factual determinations what pumping is going on, what they're owed, what penalties should or can or should be applied, and create an administrative order in that sense. And to me, that seems a little more efficient to move forward with in the Superior Court if we need to go to that direction. And so if we do have the ability to make pumping, that's the best evidence that we have for the case at hand, we should probably make those findings on the record, apply the appropriate penalty if one's to be applied, and issue that administrative order, and have that in hand moving forward. Perhaps new and better data is provided to us, and if there is the issue of enforcement later on, we can readdress whether or not our findings should be modified in some sort of settlement or something to that effect. Well, it's just a suggestion. It seems like it might be more efficient to go through it that way as opposed to having findings of fact occur in the Superior Court itself.
Chairman? Yeah, I agree with John. I think that there ought to be a letter out there, and it basically says that based on, I think Phil sort of prefaced what it would say, that based on our estimates with these facts, and that we know that this is what you are in arrears for. If with a caveat there that if you can prove otherwise, give them the opportunity to come forward and say, well, I can prove otherwise, and here's your bill. So I'm sort of agreeing with John. We're basically following our three-step process. We're sending out a letter. The only thing we don't know here is how much it is, and I think we do our best estimate, and if he wants to come out and say, hey, that's not correct and here's why, he has that opportunity. So what I'm saying is that we go ahead and direct staff to create a letter that says, okay, here's where you are in the process. We're going to institute step one, and with a caveat as well, if you don't follow this, here's the next steps we could take, and move on from there, and do our estimate the best we can, and give them the opportunity to rebut that.
And so that's slightly different than my suggestion, and I'm not saying my suggestion is the only one, but my suggestion would be that we make findings of fact today about what the pumping occurred is, what he owes, what the penalties should be, and issue an administrative order as recommended in the first stage of the staff report, and then direct staff to move forward with implementing that administrative order. And if we need to go to the Superior Court to enforce after that, that would be the following step. And if during our enforcement process he decides that it's better for him to engage and brings us more accurate information, then we can reassess at that point in time about how to move forward.
Basically, I don't think we could make that determination today. My recommendation would be that we let staff go ahead and do that, bring back the recommendation to the next board meeting for approval with the letter, at which time we can find for the estimates that they've made, because we just don't have that information now to do it or say that today.
So then are we continuing this hearing in that process?
I think, John, you're trying to make this into one hearing, whereas the process we have here really is set up for two hearings. We weren't trying to run directly into court. We were trying to get some teeth out there and notice to show that we were serious before we did that, and to give him an opportunity. As you'll notice in the staff reports pretty clearly, there's some trees out there. We could have taken, looks like pistachio trees to me. We could have taken however many acres he has planted, multiplied it by 4, and come up with a number and put out a fee based on that. But we were hoping for compliance, not a lawsuit. So we were trying not to jump immediately into the second step here.
Understood. If that's the will of the board, that's okay. I just feel like this is going to continue to drag on until this board finally makes a decision on we're done.
I would agree with you, and I think that we're done is probably next month if he doesn't take this last 30-day opportunity to come forward and do something.
Okay. So lay that staff recommendation out for what he just spoke about to, and so we can have a vote on that, if that's what we want to do.
I don't know if we need to vote up, but I'll lay it out. I recommend that the staff create a letter to Mr. Molino laying out the estimates of his all his charges, including all the fees and penalties that he's incurred, and of course legal will be involved with that. So everything is in there that we need to about what the next steps may be. That be brought back to the board for final approval and basically beginning the official process at the next board meeting. So I don't know if we need a motion for that. I don't know if that needs to be a motion or just address staff direction, Phil.
It does need to be a motion. If you look on the staff report at the recommended board actions, you actually have a menu of actions here. You seem to be heading down option A, which is order the owner and staff to come to an agreement on the delinquent charges within a specified time. Specified time, I think probably best set it up.
I'm just not sure that we're going to get any agreement. Is what
Yeah,
we're saying.
I'm assuming we won't. So I'm setting this up for a larger discussion next month on what we do with that. Third Thursday of October. Wow, it's early. It's the 15th.
That's good.
So by, say, October 6th, that would give us enough time to set something up for him and the general manager to come to an agreement for him to pay. And if he does not pay, he is to cease all pumping by October 6th. And at that next board meeting, we will have further action to order.
You need an emotion on that.
I'm sort of confused. I'm sort of confused what you're asking here. I thought that we were saying is the first step we do is send a letter saying this is the payment you need to make, and you need to come to an agreement with us. If you don't do that by
October 6th, we'll see you on October 15th for a hearing authorizing the council to go sue you.
So we're authorizing the general manager along with Stetson and whoever to make the estimate of what those fees are.
Yes.
Okay, I can agree with that.
And send the letter telling him on October 6th we will be authorizing further action.
Who wants to put that into a motion? Yeah, I guess the board is authorizing the staff at this particular point to create a letter to Mr. Molino, identifying all his past charges, including fees, to be estimated by the best methods possible, and that if we hear no response on that letter by the next board meeting, then we'll consider further action. Does that sound like a good motion?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the motion then.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Heeman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director Kaczynski,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Item number 11, update on Pearsonville Park for failure to report and pay groundwater extraction fees. Don.
Yeah, I'll just report that following last month's meeting, we did reach out to the well operator and did put together a spreadsheet that goes back to September of 2018, estimating their usage, as they had not had a meter there previously. They do have a meter there now. As a basis, I took the information he provided in terms of their irrigation, which is relatively little. And we had a water district customer that has a similar type of operation, service station, mini mart type of thing with the fast food. And use that as a basis. I put the sheet together, sent it to Stetson for their review. They signed off on it. So I have provided it to Pearsonville well operator. He indicated that he is in agreement with it. He is going to be paying us. He indicated he was going to come by the office this week with a check. And going forward, they will be responding to the monthly report forms and paying the fee. Also, since they do have a meter, I think he has I talked to him this week, he has 3 weeks of meter readings. I don't know if they're typical or not, but at least we have some basis going forward that we can look back and make sure if they've overpaid based on their pumping, we can make an adjustment, or if they've underpaid, we can make an adjustment, and they're agreeable to that. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is resolved for the time being. As I said, with as we get the meter information and the reports they submit from here going forward, we'll have better information and we can make any adjustments to this fee accordingly.
Thank you, sir. Let's open to the public. Public have anything to say about this? Okay, seeing nothing from the public, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote and conversation.
I think it's just receive and file.
I think we just receive and file. Would that be it? Yeah.
So, receive and file. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on the Mr. Page or Mr. Vallejo? Any thoughts? Okay, we'll receive and refile it. And off we go to number 12, which is a vision plan for 2035. Discussing financing of water purchase, report on fallowing program interest, financing of fallowing program, recycled water use. This one's mine, so let me talk for a little bit about what I'm thinking here and why I asked to have this put on the calendar. I think what we've seen in the past year has been a community that has been in general upheaval about an issue that they are learning to come to grips with. They're having a tough time understanding it, as we all are. And for a good reason, because it's not an easy thing to understand. But we're getting there. Slowly but surely, this community is beginning to understand. They're maturing in the idea that we have a water problem. And we see that all around us. 5 years ago, when we began this journey, I never would have seen a candidate for mayor discuss openly that we have a serious water problem, and he wants to have it, he needs solutions to manage it. You see it all around us. You see the conversation has changed from are we open or closed to we have a water problem that we need to solve. And it's been a long, painful experience, and one of those reasons for a painful experience is because we've never really had a strategy that we can all focus in on, all hone in on, and understand why we're doing what we're doing. So that's the purpose of this Operation 2035. We've said in conversations in our GSP, it clearly states that we want to be importing water in 2035. Well, the question before us is, that's fine and dandy, and that's a nice abstract number, but does it have meaning? What does it mean for us in terms of water? What does it mean in terms for many other things that a community has to go through, and ideas and issues we have to process in order to get to 2035? So the question that I would like to have presented and I would like to develop is, what are we going to look like in 2035? And I think we need to have those conversations now in order to understand and develop the best chance we can as a community to come together or not and develop a strategy for achieving our end objective. But truly, we don't know what that end objective is yet. So we need to do work on defining exactly, but we're coming close in terms of we don't in general understand what we want to look like, but we do know that water will be a key component of whatever idea we come up with. We have to have the water. Water is a predicate for the success of any venture. So we have the opportunity of a lifetime here as a community to turn the page on the kind of stuff we've been through in the past couple of years and turn the page into looking at the future and developing what we want to look like and coming together now so we can have conversations today about things that are going to happen in 2030, or at least we can have a plan to deviate from down the road. It's called strategy. It's called developing a strategic plan. When I took over this office this year, in December and January, I sat down with Don. I said, okay, Don, these are my, and Phil, I said, these are my objectives. This is what I want to do this year. I don't want to saddle next year's chairman with the same thing. I want to be able to give that chairman a head start on developing his personal agenda for what he wants to achieve next year, and that's the purpose of this. We want to solve some immediate, we want to discover some immediate solutions to immediate problems. We want to solve develop some ideas that will be intermediate in nature in terms of time horizon, and we want long-range solutions to help us come together. And every year, this Operation 2035 should be revisited, reviewed, and adjusted so that it's flexible, it changes with a changing environment. You know, our technology changes, our environment changes, our community changes, and we need to change with it. Our plan for water use needs to change with it because decisions we're making today may not very well be applicable in 5 years from now because we don't know. They may change. We may not need 3,000 acre-feet of water. We may need, 15,000 acre-feet of water. And so we need some process to do those, to make those adjustments, and to build that future for this community. That's what we need to do. We need to build a future. We need to design it. We can't just sprawl our way through life anymore as a community. We need to design it. We need to shape it. We need to put energy behind it, and we need to go get it because it's not going to come in these difficult times for any of us. We have to go earn it. So that's what this is all about. We have the tools available to us today in terms of this organization to help make recommendations to the city's planning departments, to other their counties, and all these other activities to say, whatever you incorporate in your plans, you must understand these are what our enablers are to help us, and we can develop recommendations that we can forward to appropriate authorities so that they can then incorporate these ideas and help them build these strategies for our future. The reason I mean that is I can say that is because we have a PAC, and their job, and we have a TAC, and their job specifically is to develop policies, and that doesn't mean just today. That means down the road. And these PAC and these TAC are populated by people who care about the community. They're smart. They've got ideas, and they're willing to take things on. So I'd like to forward to the PAC this thought. I would like to have, by the end of this year, the PAC develop a series of questions for us. I don't want the answers yet. I just want the questions. I don't even know what questions to ask for this strategy. I want to understand those, and so we can filter through those questions and then decide what questions we want to have answered. But right now, I think let's start at the beginning and just say, what are the questions? And here's some questions. How are we going to finance the water purchase? I mean, how the water district's got a key component of that. Searles Valley is a key component of that, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But we have to have financing in a can. We need to understand that that's an immediate problem. Fallowing program. That's an immediate problem. That's coming right down the road, railroad tracks at us, and we need to answer those questions. The financing of that fallowing program, the recycled water use. How are we going to manage recycled water? I'll talk about that in a second, but that is an issue that perhaps there are aspects of it that we can help the decision makers so that they can have a better idea on what this community wants and where we want to go. So there's a list of questions that need to be asked, and then we take those questions and we put them in pukas. We put them in an immediate puka, we put which is less than a year, or maybe, less than a year. Let's say December 2021. Then we have some intermediate questions that we have up to 3 years. Now we have some long-range questions. And so I think we need to ask the PAC and the board to develop these types of questions, get them, assign them into pukas, organize these thoughts, and see where it takes us from there, where we can go from there. Other questions, like the long-range questions, are Searles Valley is not a long-range question; it's immediate. But I'm very hopeful. I've said this before with regard to Searles Valley Minerals that I think they have a strong argument for pre-Navy rights that I personally, I can only speak for myself, is sympathetic to. I think they have a wonderful opportunity to change the dynamic on how we're assigning those numbers, and I'm looking forward to having that relationship improve as we go through this whole thing. The Navy. I mean, what's our relationship with the Navy? Right now we have Commander Benson is good enough to join us and to share his time with us, but we're not developing that relation sufficiently. Inyo County is going to have some major concerns about where the water's coming from. It's coming from the north, it's coming from the south. We all have major concerns about where the water's coming. We need to have a strategy in place. Inyo needs to be a part of that strategy, and we need to have those conversations as a group now, and instead of individuals going out in different directions. Do we, for example, by 2035, do we need a water department, a water district? I have no idea whether a water district is something we want to have or not. Maybe we need to have a water department that works for the city. I don't know, but it certainly is an interesting thought, because there are going to be issues that crop up in our future about growth, which is another great topic we need to understand. Is there going to be growth? I don't know. I mean, but we need you, the people, to give us your thoughts, and this could be a vehicle to develop that, instead of getting to a point where the city wants to grow here, the water district is pulling them, saying, no, we can't afford it because of the costs associated with the water. And do we want that organizational stress at that point, or do we want that organizational stress at a better place where we can have the conversation, and that could be an argument for having a water department. I'm not saying I'm a fan of that at all. I'm just saying those ideas, those big ideas to change the dynamic of who we are, where we're going, I think we need to engage those, and we get it going now. And we got the right smart people in the room that can help us get to where we want to go. So that's a long-winded explanation of 2035. I'd like to put the PAC chair in charge of, I know he's going to hate my guts for this, but I would like to put him in charge for at least being the central point of collaboration. Maybe we could get things going and move out on this. So I don't know if I need a vote on this, or I'm just a recommendation or a reference to file and receive and file. But those are my thoughts, and I encourage all of you to come up with your thoughts. And right now I'm interested in thoughts, and down the road I'm interested in your thoughts. And anything we can do to create a future that we want to design by ourselves is what I'm talking about in a general sense. So that's it. And I open it up for... before we go to the board, let's open up the public to see if the public has something to say. They're probably all sleeping. Probably put everybody to sleep. Yeah, Dave's awake. Everybody else is sound asleep. Dave's storming up and down. He's pissed. Okay, I see a red light. I don't see anything. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Let's bring it back to the board for your thoughts about what I'm saying. Does it make sense, or what do you think?
I'll jump in here. I like a lot of what you just had to say. One of the things that I see from the city side, in the community is understanding what we're doing. I can't tell you how many times I spoke with residents and that were questioning, the replenishment fee, for example, and they didn't want to do it. But when I would take the time to sit down and explain it from point A to point B, what we're doing, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I understand that. That makes sense. So I think one of the important things I'd like to see is some form of public relations for the GA, something that is formal. I've seen other GAs, they have websites, flyers, they have information going out. But I think it would be beneficial to us to get the community involved, get the community understanding, and get the community on board to have a solid PR relation. I don't know how we would go about doing that. It would be something we could do within in-house or look. We don't have money, so I'm not saying we'll go out and spend more money right now. But anyway, I think it'd be important if we could get the information out about what we're doing, and so that the public understands it.
Outstanding, thanks. Before I go to other members of the board, because I'm sure you have thoughts, we have a caller. I'd like to reopen the public hearing to listen to this caller. Maybe this person has something to add. Caller, you're up.
Good afternoon. This is Mallory Boyd calling in, a little delayed from your recent discussion on the vision plan for 2035. I think it's a great idea. I think the audience of contributions could be broader than the PAC. And I'd make a recommendation that we at least include the TAC, but it may also be something worth just to reach out to the public to get some of the engagement and involvement that Mr. Heyman has just mentioned in his comments. Anyway, I'm all on board for that. I think it would provide us a necessary roadmap, get us all on the same page, or as close to being on the same page as possible as we move forward. But thanks for the time or opportunity to contribute.
Thanks, Mal Boyd. Appreciate it. We have another caller. Caller, you're up.
This is Judy Decker.
Hi, Judy.
Hi. As a member of the PAC, I like what you said, Mick, and it's very important. But also, to go forward with this, we really need to have an in-person meeting with one another. Communicating this way, communicating by writing letters that are posted on the GA website is not satisfactory to go forward with something as important as you're talking about. And I would also strongly second Scott Heyman's suggestion of a public relations group or whatever, because you chose to not follow the public engagement plan that the PAC wrote in the very beginning of this process. And I think by doing that, by not engaging in that, you caused a lot of disinformation to be disseminated that was incorrect. So you need to be able to inform the public on a regular, ongoing basis. And you need to have the PAC have the ability to meet together to not just share their thoughts, but to have some interchange of ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Lessons learned. I also agree with the comment someone made about the TAC. Mallory said something about the TAC. I meant to keep the TAC and get in the conversation. Ron, did I see you moving your finger?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's this is almost going to what I was talking about the last meeting, that we have this need to have a vision for the public to see. I think this is very important. Add a couple things to it. I think that that in the first, you call them first year, in the first year, I think that we need to have a project. I mean, obviously within 1 year we should have a project defined, because it's essential for looking for money, especially in the case of what Capital Corps is doing. I think maybe down the road, this may become a board that is a voted position. That's long range. May or may not happen. I think that should add to your list. And the communications are so important. I agree wholeheartedly with this guy. And a good example is April was sitting here and telling me that when the Prop 218 went out, she received, I'm going to say, hundreds of phone calls of people saying, what's all this about? What's sustainability? What's this? So it shows you that the people weren't engaging, but they're becoming more engaged. And I appreciate that. So I think we shouldn't let that opportunity drop by forming some kind of public relations type of thing, which is, to me, would be a first-year thing that we need to do. So I'm telling you that I agree with this. I think that we need to move ahead with it. I'd like to see some definite things on the first year, and let's turn the PAC and the TAC loose on it. Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Any other comments coming from anywhere? Oh, yeah, we got a public. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing again if nobody. But you guys don't mind if I open the public? Okay, let's open that public hearing again. Let's take a call. I usually don't do this, by the way. I usually, when I close the public hearing, it's a matter of routine, protocol. It's closed. But it's 12:30. We get time. Call, you're up.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. This is Norman Alexander.
Hey, Norm.
Just calling. Hey, I agree with your concept of having a vision for 2035, but I think it's a lot broader than that, in the sense of it really needs to include, and maybe they become part of the PAC or TAC or whatever the organization may be, but what's the city vision, right? Where are we going to be as far as population-wise, school-wise? How do we want our city to look? Those type of things. So we're talking big vision, and in order to get that big vision, one of the strategic imperatives is make sure we have enough water, right? And that's where, the GA, you have imperatives and then you have objectives to meet those and tasks and things like that. But I think one of the challenges we have as a community is kind of a lack of vision. From the base point of view, hey, are we going to get the F-35? What about Space Force? What about, if we get a lot of other folks in here, it's got to be pretty broad. But I fully support that concept of trying to get that vision out there and planning for it and not being reactionary. That's the beautiful thing I see about it. Thank you very much for taking the call.
Thanks, Norm. I'm looking forward to your participation in this plan as we move forward. Whatever shape it takes, we'll need your help. Thank you. We're done. Okay, we're done. Okay, so any other thoughts from board members? Bob, Mr. Page, I'd be interested in how you think about this. What do you think?
Mick, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I like the idea of doing a visioning project, but the one thing that I'm kind of, and I think the last caller kind of touched on where I was going with my thinking is that as you mentioned in part of your comments, water is one piece of where this community and the community of Trona and will potentially have to address going forward. And so I'm just kind of in my mind wondering whether the authority is the right organization to be facilitating this discussion, or if we need to start broader, given that the city of Ridgecrest, the 3 counties all manage land use decisions within the basin and for the areas that use water from the basin, whether this needs to be kind of a broader visioning project just for the whole community to ensure that general plans, the GSP, and other type of planning documents can be aligned in a way that makes sense for the future of the community. So I don't know if that means that we don't, as the authority, aren't facilitating this or not. It's just a question I have in terms of what's the right approach to visioning for the community with water being a part of that vision.
So the way I see that, Bob, is that's one of the questions that we need to get by the end of the year. So that we need to form some type of group to review these questions and to shape them in a way that we can go forth and start developing answers for each of them. And it may require a broader spectrum than just the Groundwater Authority, but we'll see where that goes. Maybe we'll just take water piece, but we'll be cooperating and collaborating with other pieces. But at least we can get the ball rolling. I think it's a critical component of our success as a community, because I don't think that anymore in California you can just grow the way you want to grow, and especially here because we have serious challenges in front of us. As a matter of fact, we're telling farmers that you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money that you're probably not going to be able to afford, or you have to go another route, and it's not fun. And I think we just got to be real careful of how we do this and how we do it, but we need to do it. So,
and I agree with that. And I think the challenge for me is that the land use agencies, the city and the counties, the law requires us to consider the authority's GSP, but not to necessarily comply with it. So there needs to be some sort of collaboration between the agencies on how we move forward for the best in the best interest of the communities.
Right. And speaking of Bob, San Bernardino County, I think I said this already, but Searles Valley is an interesting item for discussion. I mean, in my own opinion, I think I said this, but I want to say it again. I think they have a strong argument, and I would like very much to ensure that we have that conversation to resolve as much of that as we can and move forward in a way that's in the best interest of both this water basin and Searles Valley. So I'm looking forward to successful conversations there, and I think we have a good chance for that. Any other thoughts? John, what do you think? Anything special?
Nothing conclusive at this point.
Thanks, John. Commander Benson, any thoughts?
Nothing for me. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Look forward to, I know we have a meeting set up soon. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you. Okay, so is that a receive and file? And that's all? We don't have to move. So we'll move on to item 13, board consideration approval of litigation tolling agreements with Meadowbrook Dairy and Searles Valley Minerals. I think that's you, Phil.
Yes. As you know, we've entered into previous tolling agreements with Searles and Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook has requested that we modify the agreement a little bit to include their position in the transient pool. Their agreement is attached. Searles has not submitted this agreement, and theirs ends on September 30th. So at the moment, while we thought we'd also have Searles in here, we only have Meadowbrook requesting for their extension. The modifications just take it out to the point at which transient pool fallowing program has to be complete in January.
Thank you, sir. Let's open to the public for your thoughts on the tolling agreements between Meadowbrooks and Searles Valley. Oh, no, Meadowbrook, just Searles.
Just Meadowbrook.
Got it. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a vote and discussion. Any thoughts?
Before we get to, this is John Vallejo.
Yes.
I'm just contemplating the possibility of board authorizing to enter into a similar tolling agreement with Searles Valley if that becomes a possibility before the next board meeting, just given the deadline. Just wondering if we should consider that as well, since it's been listed on the agenda.
Interesting.
We could consider that. I didn't bring that forward because with our current changes to the way we're able to do meetings, we could do a all-phone quick meeting if we needed to for Searles to have one.
Okay, so we can accommodate Searles' request if they want to.
We can accommodate through a special meeting if need be, yes.
Okay, cool. Any other thoughts? Or how about a vote?
Motion to approve.
I move approval of the extension of the tolling agreement with Meadowbrook.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
We have a motion a second. Roll call vote.
Vice Chair Heyman?
Aye.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes.
Director Kaczynski?
Yes.
Director Page?
Aye.
Director Vallejo?
Aye.
Water Resource Manager report. Steve, be quick.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, everybody. It's good to hear everybody. I see some of you on TV, but good to hear everybody and everybody involved. So I will make this quick. The meeting is moving on very, very well, so I'll make this quick as I can. I wanted to say something initially because Mick and I, the chairman and I, did talk earlier about the vision plan, and I just want to make sure that I have an opportunity to indicate full support of this vision plan. The idea of getting to 2035 is great. That's awesome. That fits our GSP. But from my perspective, we are having some changes on the board and the staff starting January 1, and I think it's extremely important for this group going through the PAC to TAC, the public, and the board, for us all to know what we want to get done next year. This has been a huge year with incredible leadership on this board, things that have been accomplished 2020. And having a plan for 2021, we have a lot to do, so it'd be great to include real detail for 2021. So I wanted to mention that. We can put I've got PowerPoints up there. We can put them up, starting with Prop 1 status and schedule, which we do every month. Just before that, I will just do a verbal report because there's been questions on the TSS program. That's a technical support program with DWR. It's a grant program that provides not money but technical support. Jean Moran from our office has been continuing to work very hard on this. She now has a draft agreement that she's coordinating with DWR for this for the TSS grant for services to drill us a deep well. The draft should be available for legal counsel and board review soon. We thought it might be ready for this meeting, but it wasn't. we're shooting for October. The deep well is currently planned, possibly to be even drilled in November, pretty quick, in the El Paso area. There's issues to deal with on this well that she's working through with DWR and BLM and local folks on permitting, involving disposal of the soil cuttings, access, scheduling with the well driller and local support. So those are all being worked out right now. I would expect to give a progress report on this at the October meeting. And again, we've been talking about the PAC and the TAC. We will likely, our intent would be when this program is pulled together and we know pretty much what we're going to do and when, we will distribute this to the TAC for their input also, because the TAC's been involved in the TSS since the beginning. So that's really just a verbal report on the TSS program. Moving to the PowerPoint, Prop 1 status and schedule, things are moving well. The invoice number 6 was actually submitted back in May. Final responses to DWR, I think we've satisfied all of their questions. And on August 12th, it shows there. Part of the reason why it took a little longer to get squared away with DWR on this particular invoice is this is the first invoice that includes the modified Prop 1 agreement that includes the Prop 68 agreement. So they made some changes in it, some different requirements. So we've now broken through the ice. I think we're good. We're on the same page on the invoice. So we're just waiting for DWR to do final review and process invoice number 6. Invoice number 7 covered the period April through June 2020. After retention, we're looking at almost $96,000 to the authority. It was submitted on August 29th, which was before the deadline, which is what we needed to. We actually to the end of the month. The progress report associated with that invoice, following DWR's instruction and direction, the progress report is combined for Prop 1 and Prop 268 together, so it was submitted at the same time. So for really information purposes, we're waiting for payment on 6, and invoice number 7 is under review at DWR right now. For the next PowerPoint, it's actually Prop 68 status and schedule. The beginning you've seen before, that's how much we got. We're still waiting to see if they'll increase it to the full award, which is another roughly $30,000, $31,000. You have not heard yet where they have money available, so right now we're working off the $300,000 that's currently available. Execution date was May 4th. That execution date of May 4th set the timetable for delivery of the first invoice, which was actually September 4th. We did produce that invoice. It covers February 2018. As I mentioned before, Prop 68 was an opportunity to apply to the state for financial support, picking up a lot of our past costs that have not already been paid by Prop 1. So we applied for it. We got it. So Prop 68, first invoice covers February 2018 through June 2020, the most recent period we could cover. Total payment after retention is almost $250,000. So as you can see, the award was $330,000, but currently available is $300,000. We're getting most of the payment under that grant in our very first invoice. So a lot of work done to pull that together. Again, it was submitted on the 29th with the Prop 1 agreement. So we've got some payment requests into DWR. So hopefully we'll see some money coming back to the authority very soon. For the next PowerPoint, and I'm going to combine two items on the agenda. That's the TDS sampling and testing results and the isotope sampling and testing results. Both of these projects are included in the Prop 1 agreement. Both of these projects, studies, have been coordinated through the TAC. They're technical studies. We agreed, we committed to the TAC that once we collected the data and we produced a technical report, a technical memorandum based upon the sampling, the collection of samples and the test results, and we produced a technical memo, we would run it through the TAC for review and comment. We've done that. The technical memorandums, both technical memorandums were released to the TAC on August 31st, requesting comments back by September 14th. which was just a couple of days ago. And we are getting comments back, some very, very good comments. I will warn anybody who wants to read the isotope tech memo. For me, it was very technical. It's a little hard to read. If you're able to read it and just get general picture, it gives you a pretty good idea if you follow it about how old the water is that's in our basin. So I think it's pretty good. I have not gotten through all the comments yet, and I will provide a report back on the comments in the October meeting, our thoughts about any changes to the tech memos, because there probably will be some. I'll report back at the October meeting on that. One of the comments we got, which I thought was very good, and it related to the isotopes tech memo, and the comment basically said, wow, it's good, very technical. You need to make it readable to the general public, providing a briefing up front, provide a summary at the back, whatever it is. You need to decipher what you're telling us from all this technical information, or what it really means to every individual in the basin, so we can understand what you're telling us with this information. I think it's a great comment, and that's certainly one thing we're going to do. I have a note there: none received by September 11th. That's when I prepared the PowerPoint, but we have gotten quite a few comments in. So, summary presentation at the October meeting. So that's it for CDS and isotopes. The next PowerPoint has to do with scheduling, and some of it is just keeping track. So much has been done this year. So much hard work has been done. I've been trying to keep track of it. So you'll see the authority's June board meeting, all the things that were done, and you'll see over the right key dates, the meeting date. All of that was been done. So we accomplished a lot there. Then you can see on the next item, the July board meeting, again, the big accomplishments at that board meeting. There were other things done, but these are the ones that that I see really being key to keeping the authority and progress going forward. So shows what's been done there. We show the August board meeting, the items that happened at the August board meeting and what's been completed. And then we show the September board meeting. We had consideration of new well policy. I know that Jim Worth has prepared a revised draft of the policy. I think it's under legal review. It looks like it'll probably be moved. I didn't have this yet, but it looks like it'll probably move to the October meeting. And we'll prepare one for the October meeting for the next meeting, what's coming up. Key dates, the last part of the PowerPoint here is the key dates for the authority and the GSP, what's going on. The Gsp Pump Fee Adjustment, this is the one that Jim Worth prepared, an increase to the existing pump fee. Reporting begins September 1st. That's already started. Full month of Gsp Pump Fee Adjustment, the reporting would be October 1st, so it's coming. So we'll see a change there. The replenishment fee reporting begins January 1st. We show transient pool fallowing program to start the negotiation process. We put in here August 21st because it was adopted at that board meeting on the 21st. So work on the transient pool could start right after that. We have received numerous written course emails, requests to start discussing the process for participating in the transient pool by potential participants in that pool. We have received comments in. We're going to work our way through that. The last item I have is the transient pool following program final decisions. I put a question mark there, but I think legal counsel Phil Hall kind of answered that a few minutes ago when he said that basically we'd like to see, we need to see the issues around the transient pool and the following program before January 1st, because in January 1st you start seeing the replenishment fee and you got to go one way or the other, so that's kind of our deadline. So we will be working on the transient pool following program with the folks that qualify for that program going forward. So I think that's my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Let's open to the public. Does the public have any thought? I know Dave Janis is on the line, but let's hold off on Dave. Can we hold off on Dave? Go to the next one. Oh, there's no other call for the water resource report. Okay, got it. Okay. So let's close that. We need to receive and file on this, or thoughts about the water resource management report.
This is Director Heyman. Steve was on fire, and my ears were falling pretty good. But I have one question back on the well drilling in the southwest area. Did you say that there was going to be activity in November on that?
That is the current plan. We've got a driller lined up for that. It's going to depend on our ability to get all of the details pulled together. First of all, we need an agreement from DWR signed and processed so that it's fully funded by DWR. It's not going to cost the authority anything. A little bit of our time to manage it, but basically it's being done under a grant program. And we have some local things that we have to square away to be able to do it in November. That's what Jean tells me she's shooting for right now. We should have better information on that, Director Heyman, at the October meeting.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Good job.
Okay, so we're going to receive and file that. Thank you very much. But before we move on to General Manager report, I got Dave Janis on the phone. Could you pipe Dave Janis through for me, please, if you guys don't mind? I'm sure he wants to comment on the blistering. Good morning or good afternoon, Mr. Janis. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Rather surprised, but looking forward to this. You gave us a pretty wide-ranging and open-ended discussion on what we might pursue under the vision plan, and my question would be, what exact tasking do you plan to give between the PAC and the TAC? And is that something we need to work with staff? The regularly scheduled meetings are just 2 weeks from today. And Eddie Teasdale, the vice chair acting for the TAC, and I perhaps would like to get together with Steve and the water general manager and any of the other staff and maybe yourself, Mick, and determine what is the tasking, scope it, what are the meeting options, and what are the schedule objectives for that. We need some clarification before we go. It's just 2 weeks away.
Got it. Appreciate it. Knew you were going to say that, and I approve of everything you said except including me in those meetings. No, I'm only kidding. I'd be glad to participate. I think that'd be a good start. Let's have a conversation, and we'll watch this thing develop as we move along between you and I, and then we'll bring in Don, and we'll bring in Steve if we can, another board member, and other people that we need to have, and then we'll come up with an overarching strategy on how we're going to develop these questions, and then we'll move forward and start developing those questions, bring in the people we need to bring it. Because I think we're going to hear a lot of people, like the city's probably going to jump in and say, hey, we want to be a part of it, we want to play a role in this, and or at least send some representation. So we're going to need a chance to get, and we need to define the breadth of what we're trying to do. I don't want to overdo anything. I want to keep it within a swim lane that we can actually achieve something and maybe watch that grow over the years. I think that might be important for us to consider. But Dave, how about me and you start off by getting together and having that initial conversation, and we'll do that real soon.
Okay, yeah, we need to do it no later than the end of next week, obviously.
Yes, I'm ready to go, well, not immediately after this meeting, but soon. I'll let you know, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Something we should point out is this might really consist of PAC and TAC members and those committees, but it will not be a true PAC or TAC meeting, because once we start bringing city and others in, it's going to be much more of a workshop under Brown Act rules. So this is much more free-form, larger group than specific tasking that we've done for PAC and TAC in the past.
Right, and I'm going to keep you apprised, and you're going to keep me in the right place on that. Thank you very much. Okay, I have no idea where we are. General Manager report.
Okay. First item is the financial report, and I would mention that since the last meeting, we did pay, I think it was a December Stetson invoice, around $186,000, so that is some good news. The balance that you see on the financial report for August, around $30,000. I would like to note that that does not include the pumping fees that were collected for August, which were $54,829.19, and also mention the invoices that are outstanding from DWR. Steve mentioned invoice number 6, $40,218.79. We also have invoice 7A from Prop 1 grant, which is $95,904.25. That's for the period from April through June. And we also have invoice 7B, which was the Prop 68. That is in the amount of $246,353.04 after retention. and those are all under review by DWR, but those are funds that will be forthcoming. Item B, Capital Corps report. Their report for August is in your packet. I can summarize it briefly. Capital Corps' focus in August was on the outreach on continuing to secure funding and monitoring the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, for policy items related to water scarcity affecting Department of Defense installations. With regards to the NDAA, they've been monitoring both the House and Senate versions and have proposed amendments to the Water Act provisions within the House bill that address the need for collaborative and regional solutions to water supply for military communities in water-constrained areas. Capital Corps continues to monitor several bills related to funding water infrastructure projects. So those include the 2020 America's Water Infrastructure Act, the 2020 Drinking Water Infrastructure Act, the Water for Tomorrow Act, and the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, DCIP. Updates on these specific programs and bills are in the report in your packet. This month, they'll continue to monitor the NDAA and other water policy bills as they move through Congress. They're also working with the conference committees as they address the differences in the two NDAA bills, the House version, the Senate version, and Capital Corps' proposed amendments to those bills. Item C, Severely Disadvantaged Communities Program. There's been some progress in the last couple months. WaterWise has provided reports for their activities for July and August. They're in your packet. So the focus to date has been marketing and outreach for the program. They launched the website on August 3rd. Approximately 1,000 postcards have been mailed to addresses within the designated disadvantaged communities of Inyo Kern and Trona. Postcards have also been distributed in bulk to high-traffic locations within both the Inyo Kern CSD and the Searles Domestic Water Company offices. And they've also been distributed to local hardware stores. The Gateway Hardware in Inyo Kern, Home Depot here this week, we took some over there. And there's one other hardware store. I think there's I can't remember where it was. Anyway, so that the outreach is going on. With regards to the Rural Water Association, that leak audit, the WaterWise, just to remind you, the WaterWise program is for rebates on water-efficient devices. And the second STAC program is the Rural Water Association's program. That's identifying leaks and repairing leaks. It's a water audit program. They did draft a plan for the leak detection component of the program for Inyo Kern, and that's been reviewed by myself and by Stetson, and it was approved. They did meet with Inyo Kern CSD on September 3rd, and they're planning to be on site to begin the audits and the leak audits September 22nd through the 24th. They're also in the process of drafting the work plan for the Searles Valley communities, and they were planning to reach out to Searles Domestic Water Company this week to begin initial discussions on rolling out that plan. So things are in motion with that. General Manager's recruitment. The position originally closed August 31st, and we did get 2 applicants. It was during a staff discussion after the last board meeting. There's a recommendation that we try to expand that pool. It wasn't a reflection of the qualifications of the candidates, but a desire to get a larger pool. We asked staff if they were okay with that. We did extend the recruitment period to October 10th. We used the same 2 advertising venues that we used previously, the Association of California Water Agencies website and the waterdistrictjobs.com email that goes out weekly. Delinquent accounts, as I mentioned, as reported at last month's meeting, the Prop 218 notice was requiring a lot of time, so not much was done on that. I think April just handed out to you an update of the status of the accounts, and the intended actions are highlighted in yellow. You can review those. But those are the actions will be taken to follow up on the delinquent accounts. Well registration update. We have had 3 new well registrations since last month's report. So since the ordinance was passed requiring registration, there have been 110 new well registrations. All but 6 of those are de minimis. There's been one change in the status from de minimis to non-de minimis. So the total now is 129 de minimis and 114 non-de minimis, and that is among the 55 non-de minimis pumpers. That's my report.
Thanks. Thanks. Let's open to the public for any comments on the general manager report. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for any comments on the general manager report.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
All right. Obviously, you know I'm going to comment on the financial part, because when I see over $600,000 due with an estimated $450,000 being expected, that has a concern. But I want to go back to what I've been asking and what you even mentioned earlier about, it seems to me that we have almost 3 separate budgets now. One is going to be a replenishment fee budget. One is going to be tracking the plan development, the one we approved the pumping fee for. And finally, we're going to have an administrative budget of some kind. My recommendation is that we turn the assignment over to staff to come back with a recommendation about a finance committee. I don't want this committee to get out of hand. I think it needs to be a few key people who can get these budgets together, and we track them on a monthly basis so we ourselves can see where the money is being spent. Is it properly assigned to proper account? What money is coming in? And I think it's important that we do this. It's going to go about transparency. A lot of money coming and going now. And I think I would like to have a way that we can track that. I don't want to make this such a full-blown thing where there's, 18 people on this committee. I think it just needs a few key people who understand finances, who can put together the budgets and help us track what this information is. So in the future, what I would expect to see under approved expenditures would be possibly 3 columns, one for what's being paid by the pumping fee, what's being paid by the replenishment fee, and what truly is administration costs. And then we get a clear picture. We keep the fees separate. We have a clear picture of what's going on, and we as a board always know where the money's coming and where it's going, because it's getting a bit confusing now. And it's no longer based on just how many invoices we're paying and how many are coming in. It's how they're being divided up. So my recommendation, if the board would agree, is that let the staff take a look at it and see, can we put a committee together, some select people, and I think it should be a standing committee myself, and how often we meet and what we would accomplish, and how we can make it very clear to the board expenditures and revenues coming in. So I'd like to make that recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Any thoughts from other board members? Staff, any thought?
This is John Vallejo. I guess,
John, please, go ahead.
One thought I have on that would be to try to coordinate this conversation with any new executive manager that we ultimately end up hiring.
That must be a good idea. So I think what you said, John, was this is going to be something that the general manager is going to have to work with closely, and we should allow him a say in how this thing is shaped up, whether they report annually or whether they report semi-annually, or what issues they directly take on. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying, because, as we were discussing earlier, the intended scope of work for the executive manager includes all of the finances and those aspects of this agency as well. So, creating a whole new oversight board without the input of that key person would be, I think, an interesting exercise in agency efficiency.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I still think the staff can go ahead and make the recommendation.
Well, what I would
based on what John said and all the information, let them come back with a recommendation, taking into account what was been said.
Thanks for that input, those thoughts. I think that there's some value there. I think not so as declined as to argue against that as I was before, because things have changed and I think we need to keep an open mind, and I think we need to keep things clearly articulated in each different columns and all that kind of stuff. I the opposing thoughts after we talked yesterday, Ron, I was thinking, okay, this is going to cost us some money because we're going to have to pull the water resource manager into the game to have him work with this committee and understand. So there's going to be costs associated with this committee, and I'm not opposed to that if it's going to save us in the long run. I'm just brainstorming this idea. I don't want to create a committee that is going to slow us down. It has to be agile, and I don't know what the end result of a finance committee is. Is it to make a recommendation, or is it to just provide oversight, or what their function is? So I'd be interested in if we're going to ask staff to shape something up, I think maybe we need to give them something more to work with than just forming a finance committee. You know, this is what we kind of want to see as a product of this group of 1, 2, 3, or 4 people, something like that.
I think you said it perfectly. Oversight is probably the main thing, just oversight. So we're very transparent about money coming and going.
Okay, well, I think let's throw it over to staff and see what they have to say, and see if what they think about making recommendations to us to how we can effectively use a oversight capability that may benefit us. It may be that we I don't know. Let's just let's see what happens with it. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm open-minded to it, and we'll see what happens. How did we get there?
I want to say thank you.
Okay.
For considering, I really do. I mean, I've been talking about this for months and months, but you hit it on the head with the oversight, because that's the main thing here.
Yeah, but I just don't want oversight.
Yeah.
There's people that oversee.
Oh, I know that, but it keeps us just what we're asking for. What's going where and why? You're right. That's maybe entirely different.
So maybe
the finance committee.
There is no recommend. Maybe they don't make a recommendation.
Yeah, we'll just see what they say. Let's see what the staff says.
Let's see what the staff says to it, and we'll see how it goes. Where are we on the board? Does anybody know where the heck we are? Are we at the closing comments? Yes? Okay, closing comments. Let's start with BLM. BLM, you out there, Tom?
Yes, I'm here. And as a member of the PAC, I really look forward to being a part of the vision discussion and finding a way to fund these water rights more expeditiously. That's all.
Thanks, Tom. Commander Benson?
Nothing today for me. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Commander. John Vallejo?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bob Page?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Ron?
I think this was a good meeting. I think we accomplished a lot. I'm glad that Dave Janis is coming after you. Yeah. No, but it's important. We've done some very important things here today, and it shows that we're moving ahead. So I want to thank everybody involved.
Thank you, sir. Scott, you got anything?
No comments.
I have none either. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Remember, we're not adjourning. We're returning back to closed session.
Oh, yeah, we got to go back to closed session, everybody. That's right. So what does that mean? What do I say now? I say we're retiring. We're closing open session, and we're retiring to closed session.
That's it.
And when do we report out of closed session? After closed session or before next meeting? Either one.
Which would you prefer? We'll report after closed session.
Okay, we're going to try to keep this.
And we'll tell people, we'll re-report again at the next meeting also.
Okay, so we have a topic we need to talk about. Yeah. Oh, before we go to closed session? Yeah, why don't everybody take a 5-minute break? So it's 1:10 now? It's 1:01, 1 o'clock, so let's get 5 minutes. 1:05, 1:10, let's get everybody back here for closed session. Thank you. So the open session is now closed. Welcome back. We just request a report out of closed session.
We met again on one item and nothing to report out of closed session.
Thank you very much. Closed session is adjourned.